गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्मा तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः. We are in the Mangal Charana, that is the invoking of auspiciousness or conducting in auspiciousness so that we abide in the truth, that we invoke the truth, that we recognize ourselves to be the truth, and that was told in the first verse. Yadaksharam anakhyayam anandam ajamavyayam Srimannivrittinatheti khyatam daivatamashraye. I take refuge in the divine, popularly known as Sri Nivrittinath, who is one imperishable, inexplicable, unborn, absolute bliss. Nivrittinath, we saw last week, is the guru of Sant Jnaneshwar Maharaj, and also at the same time his elder brother. And this the word Nivritti Nath means the one who has detached from everything. Nivritti means withdrawal. He has withdrawn from the world. He is the master. Nath means master. He is the master of withdrawal. And to that, in that person, in that idea, in that person, in that divinity. And what is that? That which is absolutely withdrawn from everything and yet expressing as everything. See? In that Guru principle, I take refuge. What is that then? Is that a person? Here in this case it is his teacher. But at the same time he is recognizing that teacher to be the divine. And here we saw last week that our Jnaneshwar Maharaj, he has, do not forget the context of this text. The context of this text is, it was not someone's imagination of nectar of immortality. It is his own direct experience. And only when his teacher asked him, then he put in words his experience. So it is not a person who is uncooked, who is unprepared, who is a student, who is invoking the blessings of the teacher before writing his text proper. He is also realized master. But even though realized, still that gratefulness, that surrender, that recognition that the Guru and I are one, and yet continuing to continuing to remember that reality which expresses as the Guru and the student at the same time. And that is this idea that that same reality is expressing as the teacher and the taught, as the God and the devotee, as the consciousness and the matter. That is brought out in the second verse. He says गुरुरित्याख्यया लोके साक्षाद् विद्या हि शाङ्करी जयत्याज्ञा नमस्तस्यै दयार्द्रायै निरन्तरम्. I surrender incessantly to this Brahma Vidya manifested in the Guru, who is full of compassion for the disciple. So now the attention of the student Jnaneshwar Maharaj is going on to that this same reality is expressing as the teacher, the Guru. The same reality is expressing as the disciple, the student. And the same reality is also expressing as the knowledge which the Guru is imparting to the student, or what the student is learning from the teacher. Now you see where your attention is. So the words that are coming out, the knowledge that is being communicated, what knowledge is being communicated here? You are the body, that there is day and night, that you are a limited being. Is this the knowledge that is being communicated? No. The knowledge that is being communicated is you are that infinite. Don't consider yourself to be anything less. So the teacher is of the infinite nature, the student is of the infinite nature, and the knowledge that is communicated, that is going on between the teacher and the student, is also of the infinite nature, because all the scriptures are only bringing your attention to the infinite theme. They do not propagate duality. The scriptures do not propagate matter. They propagate truth. They propagate divinity. They propagate reality. Isn't it? And what is that reality? All these three. The knowledge, the teacher, and the taught, the student. Who knows this? Who knows this? The teacher knows this. That I am of the nature of reality, the student is of the nature of reality, and the knowledge is of the nature of reality. It's the one reality which is expressing as these three. And here, unlike many other places or many other texts, the teacher, the student is not an ignorant one. The student also knows that this is the case. And therefore, with this recognition, he says, I surrender incessantly to that knowledge which is being expressed through the Guru Maharaj, which is and how does it get manifested in the Guru? As the words of the Guru, isn't it? As if you take it within, as the conscience within yourself. Once we get over this idea of Guru, Guru, Guru. Last Monday, this Monday which has gone by, one person came, his children come to the class. Swamiji, I have made a Guru. I said, you have made a Guru? I don't know. What do you have made Guru? No, there is one Mahatma in Adelaide. He's from Maharashtra, and he's from the Dattatreya line. And I went and I told him that I want him to be my Guru, and he initiated me. I said, you are great. What else can I say? I said, no, go and practice whatever he has taught you. You can't make a Guru. You can't make anyone your Guru. See? Guru is the infinite principle. Recognize this. And once this obsession goes away from your mind, that this is my teacher, this is not my teacher, that is my teacher, that is not my teacher, then we'll start learning from everything and everyone that is coming unasked into our life. See? We must transform to that level. That in and through 24 by 7, our attention, our poise, our abidance is in that reality. That reality itself is the Guru, which is expressing within, which is expressing at the totality level as God, and at the individual level as the teacher in your life. See? And don't stop there. Recognize, here the student is, Jnaneshwar is saying that not only the teacher, but also the words are of the divinity, and I, the student, is also of the same nature. With this frame in mind, make the prayer. Until and unless this type of greatness towards the Guru principle, until and unless this type of great feeling towards the knowledge, if we consider the teacher to be a human, we will behave with him like a human. If we consider a teacher to be a human and not, or we consider ourselves to be a human, then we are selling, selling ourselves short. Because we are essentially divine, we are essentially infinite, and considering ourselves to be finite. And we are considering this finite and doing sadhana through this finite entity, this conditioning, and want to become infinite. It is not possible. It is not possible. You have to drop the finite to recognize the infinitude. And what is dropping the finite? Means having no obsession with regards to the finite conditionings. See? Then no obsession with regards to your body, no obsession with regards to your thoughts, no obsession with regards to your relations. Everything is okay. Leave it. Leave it. This obsession that I go to this guru, that I go to that guru, that I am initiated by this guru, it has its importance, no doubt. It is very important. I also went to one teacher. I have great respect and reverence for him. You are also coming because you also get something here in this satsang, therefore you are coming. But it must not stop here. Make this as a foundation, and with that expand and recognize. And that will not come at the mental level. It cannot come from the mental level. Until unless you do not recognize while the satsang is going on that you are also of the nature of divinity, then alone the expansion will come about as a result of grace. The expansion of the mind does not happen by our own willpower. It only happens by grace, by the blessings of the divine. And that blessing of the divine is appearing in our life as our guru, that blessing is appearing in our life or manifesting in our life as this knowledge. Not everyone is available to this knowledge, even though it is abundantly available. Yesterday, only you were saying, yesterday in Sanskrit class, Swamiji, I don't know what has happened in 1 year, our life has just turned around. Someone told them about Sanskrit class, they came to Sanskrit class, now I see them more than my own mother. Attend every class. See? Can it be their own willpower? Can it be their own doing that this has brought about? That this has come about? It can only be the grace. Another person, Kasturi's place, I was there. He was saying, after, because we didn't have the Sanskrit class afterwards, so I was just having a coffee and sitting with and talking to them. And he says, Swamiji, I don't know, if I was in India, I would have just been slogging. I would be caught up with all my relatives, and I will be going 1.5 hours to work and 2 hours to come back and working for 8, 10, 12 hours. And I would have never been exposed to all this. The scriptures, here Mahatmas come to my house. Yeah? You are coming to our house. We are having so many satsangs. Freely means we are having the time and the appreciation for it. I am able to organize lectures for the various Mahatmas. I am able to practice my own sadhana. This would not have been possible in India. So I said, you did a good job by coming to Australia. He says, Swamiji, I did not plan. It happened. See? All this has happened by grace. And even more so is the ability to recognize, because that ability to recognize that it is happening by grace alone is also grace of the Lord. You see? No. Oh, it's all grace. I recognize this. No, it's not. There's no I there. That all, this appreciation that we are showing is also His blessings only, His grace only. That He is giving us these type of thoughts. That's what Jnaneshwar Maharaj is saying. Yes, you were saying?
I just wonder what sadhana is. Sadhana?
Sadhana is the practice.
Oh, sure.
Practice. This Sakshat Vidya. Sakshat Vidya hi Shankari. That knowledge which once gained causes the inauspicious things to be removed in toto once and for all. Sakshat means immediate, direct. Vidya means knowledge. Which knowledge are we talking about? Are we talking about the knowledge of the world? Can knowledge of the world remove all our doubts and suspicions? No. There is only one knowledge that can remove all this, and that is the knowledge of the divine. So that is Sakshat Vidya. In Bhagavad Gita also it says, in the 15th chapter I think, that if at all we have to cultivate our mind, a cultured mind, a cultivated mind, is that mind which is washed with the scriptures. The thoughts that must appear in our mind by default should be that of the scriptures, not of the world. It should be of the scriptures. Either the Lord's name of its own accord is getting repeated in the mind, or whatever we have studied or whatever you have contemplated upon, that which leads to the truth, that should be the default theme. When that happens, then alone, this is Sakshat, then it is immediate. So that reality is manifesting as knowledge through the teacher to the student, as that knowledge being expressed. And now the recognition is, we are going one step further, that whether the teacher is there or not, by his grace, by the divine's grace, now that knowledge is manifesting in my mind of its own accord. That will be a great day. It happens, but it must happen 24/7. Waking, dream, sleep. I remember, I've got a live example in front of me. I went, when Swami Anubhavanji was here, he had a operation, hernia operation, and I went and stayed with him for 10 days in Coffs Harbour. And he was given morphine and all that. And next morning he got up. So I touched his feet. Thoda, please press my. And because of the drug, he could not speak very clearly. And I just pressed his feet so that he starts getting the feeling. And the moment he got a little bit feeling, one more girl was there, a lady was there from Mumbai. He said, "Acha, sit down." He doesn't realize anything. He does not remember that. He said, "Sit down." And he took us through a fantastic meditation in the hospital. And he's drugged. He says, afterwards, he says, "Acha, did I say that?" So even in an unconscious state, I am talking only about the scriptures. And the scriptures had really taken me, caught my mind. How thrilling it is. But when we are imposing it down someone's throat, then it becomes, we react to it, isn't it? But when it is naturally coming, and I said, no, I will press your feet, this, that. He says, he started talking he was saying, now do this, now do that. Immediately we both sat down. There itself in the hospital room, next to the bed, and he is telling us. And we went into meditation. There you go. So Sakshat Vidya. Sakshat, immediate. Vidya, knowledge. Of what? Of the reality, of the truth. Where does it express? Everywhere, within and without. Eyes are seeing the without, but the knowledge is that of the reality. If our mind is seeing without or is involved with the without and recognizing names and forms and obsessed with them and thinking that they are the reality, and therefore judgments, therefore reactions, therefore do's and don'ts, then we are going the wrong way. Because a realized master also sees the world, but what is his experience? That of his attention is on the essence. This is important. So Sakshat Vidya. And how can it come? It is your nature. This Sakshat Vidya, this immediate knowledge is your nature. Just because we have forgotten it, the teacher came into our life of his own accord. I did not create my teacher. He came into my life. I was totally focused that I have to know the truth. How it happened, nothing was in my control. But he came into my life. There are thousands of teachers, but he alone came. And what did he teach us? To be independent, to be free, not to get caught up in anything. Recognize that you are of that essential nature, that you are of the nature of that infinite bliss, Paramananda. See? That, what, if I look back, did I deserve it?
Probably not.
Did I deserve it? Did I do any actions in my life which warranted this type of knowledge to come to me? I must have done something in this life or in past life. That's why it has come, isn't it? But in the end, I can't remember what I did in my past life. I can only remember this life. So I can only attribute it to grace. That thank God that He came. Yes, I was searching. Some people were searching. Some people are not even searching. Still it happens to them. Isn't it? Life goes through a transformation. So Sakshat Vidya. And when this immediate knowledge, and this knowledge is not a word knowledge. So now first understand, immediate is direct. So this is direct knowledge that I got from my teacher. Second direct knowledge, this is at a gross level. Some people get stuck at that. Second is what I just explained, that the knowledge about the truth through words is spontaneously expressing in your mind. Again and again you are contemplating on it. And the third level is that you are abiding in that direct knowledge, the self, continuously, permanently. Well, actually there is no time because it is beyond time. See? So 3 levels. One at a gross level, but here he is talking about the highest one. And when that happens, when you abide in that direct knowledge, then all doubts whatsoever, doubts are always about not self. Doubts can never be about the self. Nobody has a doubt about your existence, isn't it? Their existence. Everyone knows I exist. The moment you look at your body and the scriptures are saying you are not the body, then the doubt comes. Isn't it? But with regards to yourself, that I am alive, that I am conscious, there is no doubt. All these doubts, where there is differences, where there is separateness, where there is duality, there alone the doubts express. There alone there will be suspicion about another. But when we are abiding in the unifying principle that we essentially are, and that is manifesting through this equipment, then there is no question of any doubt. At that very moment all the doubt goes away. How does the disciple know this Brahma Vidya, this knowledge of the infinite? This direct knowledge, Sakshat Guru iti akhyaya loke, by approaching a realized master. That's the only way. It is not told you can get this knowledge by studying the books. Nowhere it has been told. The more we study, the more we will be confused. We must first listen. And while listening, abide. If things are not clear, then you go back and contemplate again. The more you clutter your mind with words, the more confusion will come about. Once upon a time, I used to study a lot before coming to the class. But over the years I have recognized, but that is a process that you have to go through. I have recognized that the more I study, the more I get conditioned in thinking in a particular way. Then whoever commentary I am studying, whoever's ideas I am taking, contemplating on, then they become the theme. Will I remember or will I not remember? Initially it was a big problem.
But is there anything wrong with what we're listening to this morning and then through the week or something going just
do
through
that,
what we're
do
doing?
that.
Because I find that much.
Yeah, you must. You must. But understand one thing. Why are we going to study again afterwards? Because we think we have not understood something, isn't it? What is there to understand about yourself? You are the consciousness. You know you are the consciousness. You know you are alive. Is it not? Then what do you want? Why do you need books to tell you that you are alive? Why do you need books to tell you that you are consciousness? Think about it. I do not need any, the best way is, I do not need any support to remind me who I am. I don't need any support, any words, because I am in spite of all the thoughts, isn't it? Thoughts are words. Words cannot reveal the self to me. I don't have to think in words, I am, to prove that I am. I don't have to, this statement, I think therefore I am, is not true.
But at the initial
I-
stages, that helps
Yes,
us
yes,
to-
I'm talking from the highest. I'm talking from the absolute standpoint. And then, once you understand that, yes, I have to get to that point where I am as I am. I don't have to think that I am. Acha, I have to get to that point where I don't need any words, where I don't need any books, where I don't need anything. When you don't need anything means the Guru principle, the infinite knowledge, the consciousness is manifesting within you as itself. Isn't it? So, keeping that vision, then you approach. But if you get obsessed with this, with the words, with the knowledge from someone, oh, I also listen to sometimes music, but it's become less, talks also it has become less. Why? I'm self-sufficient in everything. Why do I need anything else? Because the more we become dependent, the more we are shortening our journey. Elongating our journey, not shortening. The more we dependent, the more elongated the journey. The less we are dependent, that is why the teacher is Nivrittinath, the master of withdrawal, a master of detachment, the master of independent existence. See? And therefore here it is told that this Brahma, the master, the guru, the knowledge and the disciple, these three are not separate, they are essentially they are one. But in the creation expressing, because that one alone is expressing as many, just like you are one expressing as many, the wife, the daughter, the mother, etc., etc. Similarly, that one reality is itself expressing as the teacher, as the disciple, as the knowledge of the truth. And therefore, this knowledge has taken the form of the Guru, who is full of love and compassion for the disciple, who has transcended cause and effect, who is naturally, effortlessly compassionate, because that is his nature. In that knowledge, there is no difference of knower and the known.
Is this a different
In-
chapter? I'm sorry, but are we sort of going over what we did last
No,
week? No, it's a new chapter, is it?
no. We are on second verse.
Shiva Shakti Samdeva,
No,
Second verse.
we are on second verse.
page 5.
Page 5, is it?
Now I am on page 6. Doesn't matter. Don't distract. Unnecessary don't bring in. Don't bring in unnecessary things. So who is this Guru? Who is this? What is this reality which is manifesting as the Guru and as the Brahma Vidya, the knowledge, the direct knowledge of the essence? It is of the nature of love. It is of the nature of compassion. It is of the nature of and that love and compassion, that teacher doesn't have to, or that Guru, whatever your understanding of the Guru is now, after I have explained, he doesn't have to, or it doesn't have to try to be loving or try to be compassionate. It is its nature. The only purpose of the teacher is what? To teach. Is it to teach?
Bring out
Bring out what?
the principle in us.
And he is not trying to bring it out of you. because he cannot. What he is doing is, he is remembering his own being, and that remembrance of his own being is being communicated, and the best and the only way it can be communicated, masters, not everyone speaks through the scriptures, they have their own ramblings also, but that rambling of theirs, of their own expression of their abidance in the being, becomes the scriptures. Like this one. This is his own rambling. It is not from any Gita or other texts. This is his own experience, which he, because he is thinking about his, contemplating on his own essential nature, this has poured out of his mind and come on to his mouth as words, or maybe on paper. I don't know how it came out. And in that process, whoever is around, they get blessed. They also remember that they are that. See? They also remember. They also recognize, yes, yes, that is true. That's what I am also. So, first, having made a statement that this is what the reality is, and that reality is saluting his teacher, then saying what the reality is. In the second, recognizing that same reality is expressing as the teacher, the knowledge and the disciple. Now the student, the Jnaneshwar Maharaj, goes into the third verse. Sardham kena cha kasyartham shivayo samarupino Jnatam tu shakyate lagnam eti dvaitat chalan mahuhu. The Shiva and Shakti are of identical nature. One cannot decide as to who is united with whom, because there is an illusion of duality between them. What is Shiva and Shakti? Another name for it is the consciousness and matter. We consider that consciousness something to be something sublime and matter to be something gross, isn't it? We consider the energy to be more dynamic and the wielder of the energy to be a transcendental principle, isn't it? But here the student is saying that that same reality is expressing as the Shiva principle as well as the Shakti principle, as the consciousness as well as the matter or energy. Because it is appearing as matter and energy, consciousness and matter, or Shiva and Shakti, does not mean that it has become two. That same one is as if, underline, apostrophe, as if expressing as two. Because you are expressing as mother and wife, have you become two? No. You are the one. Those two expressions or many other expressions of yours, maybe there different roles, but they are all emanating from the one. That one, Louis, is pervading all those roles. So where are those roles? Only in imagination. Reality is one Louis. Similarly, one reality itself is expressing as the God and the creation, is expressing as the consciousness and the conditionings. So to have disgust for the conditionings, initially we begin like this, na? Drop the body, drop the breath, drop the mind. Can't drop anything. You have to transform. Because who's writing? A realized master is writing. He says everything, conditionings, limitations, imaginations, everything is nothing but that expression of the divine alone. If everything is the expression of divine, then should I go and steal? Should I go and murder? Should I go and do this? Because it's also an expression. Divine is everywhere. You may, but face the consequences. And if you are having these thoughts, very important point, if you are having these type of negative thoughts, because negativity is also in the divine only, but what is the consequence of it? That you have accepted differences, you have accepted what you call duality, and therefore you are having this thought that I must steal, I must manipulate, I must kill, murder, conquer, control. See, all these thoughts, the premise is that there is someone other. But when you are abiding in the self and thinking about that one unifying principle, these thoughts cannot. You will recognize these are there, but you will not go after them. You will observe them everywhere. In this manner, the Shiva and Shakti are of the identical nature, and therefore there is a beautiful book by Shiva Subramaniam Swami. He is in the top island of Hawaii. He's passed away. He's taken samadhi. American guy, but he took diksha from one
Sri Lanka.
from Guru in Yogeshwara.
Yoga.
Yoga Swami. And I had his blessings. I met him. I touched his feet in Hawaii itself. And he has written a book called Dancing with Shiva. Beautiful book. How this continuous play, and as long as you can see that this entire creation is nothing but a play between consciousness and the energy. If you can bring that, if you can recognize that and bring it into your life, then it can be a dance between husband and wife, not a continuous struggle. Then it can be a play between the teacher and the student. Then it is not a struggle. The teacher is not trying to teach, the student is not trying to learn. If they are doing both are in these roles, then they have lost the purpose. And yet knowledge takes place then. This is the dance. Which is more important? Because of Shiva, Shakti is, or because of Shakti, Shiva is? Because of consciousness, matter is, or because of matter, consciousness is? Which one is the case? Both are interdependent. Both are interdependent. Imagine now, you are there, because of you, how should I say, the transcendental principle is there, which is expressing as Shiva Shakti, isn't it? So, you are the transcendental principle, as we'll take it as Louis, and because of Louis there is a wife expressing, and there is a husband there, and the play is going on between both of them, and you unnecessarily become disturbed. No, I am because of the husband, or husband is because of wife. Because of whom? Can't give importance to anyone. Shiva Shakti sama rupino ho. Sama equanimous, roop of the nature, and therefore they are of the same nature. They are not different. It's only perceptual difference, it's only difference at the level of understanding. But once we understand that one reality is all that there is. Therefore, here it says the potential and the potentiality, the water and its potential, the potential in the water and the potentiality is expressing as the wave and the tide and whatever, They are one and the same. Everything is water alone, isn't it? And therefore, this Shiva Shakti, so after, in the first verse, he has talked about the infinite principle. In the second verse, he has talked about that one infinite principle expressing as the teacher, the student and the knowledge. In the third verse, he is talking about that one infinite principle expressing as the Lord and his creation, and recognizing that Lord and the creation are not two separate principles, but they are expression of that one infinite alone. You see where his vision is. The moment we use the word Lord and creation, immediately a statue comes and the creation is creation. We immediately go into thinking creation is space, air, fire, water, earth, mind, intellect, memory, ego, and 5 breaths and the 5 sense perceptions and the 5 organs of action. That is also true, but to consider that is undivine is wrong. From the absolute standpoint, everything is it alone. The perception of difference, that is duality, is an illusion or dvaita chala. Chala means culprit. Chala is to do something, that something wrong has happened. And that wrong is because of the idea of duality. And that wrong is the illusion. That illusion, that duality, what is it? It is incomplete knowledge. Incomplete knowledge expresses as duality, expresses as illusion. So we have to make the knowledge complete. And how can you make the knowledge complete? By approaching the teacher and studying the scriptures. This way, in the 4th verse, oneness in spite of the manyness is the reality. And now, in the 4th verse, he says, Advaitamatmanastatvam darshayantau mithastaram tau vande jagatam tayostatvabhipattaye. Essentially, it is non-dual. The same non-dual self manifests as duality, knower and known. These two, that is Shiva and Shakti, are present even before creation as non-dual. I salute them to attain oneness with them. So, same point he is making, that this Shiva Shakti principle, consciousness and the Lord and his creation principle, the Ishvara and the Maya, the Purusha and the Prakriti, they in their before this creation came about, before the creation came about, they expressed as unified one. They expressed as unified one. When did they become as if they became separate? When? At the moment creation came. That's when it became separate. As if. Did you become a wife when you were single? No. The moment husband appeared, wife also appeared, isn't it? It's simultaneous. Similarly, the moment creation came, the moment energy came, the moment manifestation came, at that very moment the Shiva also came. And who is Paramashiva? The transcendental principle, who is expressing as Shiva and Shakti. Clear? I salute to that Shiva Shakti, who are the original parents of the total world of creation, I salute that of these two I am able to discover the essential oneness in that duality. Can you think about that infinite reality? Can you think of something that is abstract? Can you? Can't. Can you think of something which is formless? You can't. We may use the word consciousness, but we have got no idea what conscious. We have the idea, but because it does not have a form, we start thinking again and again that this is the body. I'm conscious. I'm conscious. What I am conscious? I am as the body. I am conscious only, isn't it? So reality in its essence cannot be contemplated upon. So it's or even if it is to be contemplated upon, even if it is to be abided in as the self, the help of the Creator, the eternal Father and the eternal Mother is necessary. And that eternal Father and Mother are Shiva and Shakti. I salute to both of them so that they may grace and bless me to recognize that they are not two but essentially one. Because only by the grace of the Divine Father and Mother, who are the creator of this creation, and me being the aspect of this creation, by their blessings I will be able to transcend the creation. Who is Shiva? Who knows that in essence he is the Paramashiva, isn't it? Who is Shakti? Who knows in her essence she is nothing other than the Shiva principle. But both of them know. If they are male and female and they know that, oh, I also know because I am male and husband and wife, but we get caught up in each other. If I don't need a wife, I am in myself, the left brain and the right brain. Then again I have got caught up in the left brain and the right brain. I am not able to transcend. Yin and Yang, Ida and Pingla, these are all nothing but same expressions of this Shiva Shakti principle. But only by their blessings will I be able to have this vision of unity. मूलायाग्राय मध्याय मूलमध्याग्रमूर्तये क्षीणाग्रमूलमध्याय नमः पूर्णाय शंभवे. In the fifth verse, the Jnaneshwar Maharaj says, salutations to the beginning, Moola Agraya, salutations to the middle, Madhyaya, and salutations to the end, Moolam Adhyaya Murtaye, Shinagra Moolam Adhyaya, and then he says, and the end of everything, to him my salutations. In the absence of the manifested world where beginning, middle and end do not exist, to that complete Lord Shiva who is all auspicious, we offer our salutations. So where is the teacher, the Jnaneshwar Maharaj's attention going? His attention is on that reality which is before the beginning, during the beginning, during the middle, and also during the end and after the end. So what is that principle in whom creation, maintenance and destruction? What is that principle in which the beginning, the middle and the end come and go, but the principle remains the same? We can say the water is that principle in which all the beginnings of the waves, all the middle of the waves and all the ends of the waves are included. And yet water is transcendental to all these three. Isn't it? So similarly, where is your attention? Is your attention on the beginning, middle and end? Or is your attention on that principle, that conscious principle, because of which the beginning, middle and end are able to express. And what is that principle? I am. See? And this creation is nothing but beginning, middle and end, isn't it? Continuously. Outside also same thing is happening. In the breath also beginning, middle and end is there. In the thoughts also beginning, middle and end is there. And when we are sitting in the meditation, this is what our intention is, to catch that. When we are concentrating on the breath, as the breath becomes slow and shallow, we are able to see, I am the witness principle in whom the breath begins, is maintained, and it dies to become the beginning of the out-breath, the maintenance of the out-breath, and the end of the out-breath. Then again the out-breath dies, and again the beginning of the in-breath, and so on. But I remain the same. In my presence, all this is happening. When that has become your direct experience, not just a thought experience, but a direct experience, then we move into the mind. There we start seeing how the beginning of the Om, the middle of the Om, and the end of the Om is happening one after the other, but I remain the same. We get focused on the Om and get caught up in the Om, but our attention should be, I am the witnessing principle. I am unchanging. Om is changing. See? The presence of the Om or the absence of the Om is happening. Where it is happening? In matter. What is that matter? Mind. But I am essentially unchanging. Why? Because their beginning became middle and middle became end, I did not change, I remained the same. So this shift from the beginning, middle and end to this witness principle is only by grace. You cannot bring it about. Even though we keep saying, shift the attention back to the witness, shift attention to the... So we are just invoking and reminding, hey grace, please flow. But it will flow only when the time is right. It is perfect. It knows exactly when to come. In fact, it is always there. But we are making some mistake in our thinking. We are thinking too much. We are trying to do the exercise. The exercise purpose is not to do the exercise. The exercise purpose is to stop, go beyond the exercise. Isn't it? So in this manner, here it says that this pure essence, I salute to that which has not even appeared as Shiva Shakti or Purusha Prakriti, that infinite essence which is the indivisible principle, which has not yet expressed as Shiva Shakti, I salute to that. And it has not put on, here Swamiji is saying, he has not put on the garb of the creator and the created, of the Ishvara and the Maya, or the Purusha and the Prakriti. It has not. It is in its nascent form. And that nascent form is formless form, attributeless form. And yet, all potential is in that, but it is in its unmanifest form. And therefore, Namaha Mulaya, Namaha Agraya, Namaha Madhyaya. I salute to the beginning. So, I salute to the beginning, I salute to the middle, I salute to the end. Meaning what? All these three cannot be without the conscious principle. And that conscious principle, I am. I am the permanent principle. Because the purpose is not to prove there is beginning, middle and end. Our journey of contemplation is to come to a conclusion that I am that infinite, one indivisible principle. Isn't it? So what is having a beginning, middle and end? the body is having beginning, middle and end, breath is having beginning, middle and end, emotions are having beginning, middle and end, thoughts are having beginning, middle and end, concepts are having beginning, middle and end, ideas are having beginning, middle and end, but I have always remained the same. Come to this conclusion. And how can you come to this conclusion? When will this knowledge, even though spoken of so easily right now, when will it remain and become a mainstay of our convictions? By the grace. And therefore, salutations. Salutations. So even though the salutation is in this verse, salutation is to that infinite principle because of whom beginning, middle and end are coming, but on the other hand, it is salutation to the beginning, middle and end who are nothing but expressions of me alone. Because if I am not there, beginning, middle and end cannot come and go. How beautifully he has put it. Therefore, this I continues to be, and I salute to this indivisible principle. And what is the nature of this I? It is Purnaya Shambhave. It is complete. It is Shambhave. Shambhave means where there is nothing lacking. Shambhu, our Lord Shiva is called Shambhavaya Namaha. Shambhunath we call him in North India. He is of the nature of auspiciousness and blessings. He is complete. There is nothing lacking in him. Why? How can we come to this point where we recognize ourselves to be of the nature of completeness and all auspiciousness? When we have renounced from everything. While living in the world, renounce the world. How? By not giving importance to the world. Don't become obsessed by it. Do everything. Not do everything. If you do, ego will come up. Let everything be done, but your attention should remain on that essence. It is not that you are, because I have to contemplate on the self, so I have to stop functioning in the world. Nothing like this. Find out a way. And that way is only through grace. It's not by your doing. Because if you do something, even think, then it is doership is coming in. The ego is coming up. This verse is coming up again and again in Bhagavad Gita. We are doing 18th chapter, and that comes Tyagi Satya Samavishta Medhavi Chinna Sanchaya. The one who has renounced, Tyagi, his mind becomes such that purity takes over that mind. It saturates that mind with the purity. Sattva gun, purity, it takes over that mind. It penetrates that mind of that person who has renounced everything. And then what happens? Medhavi, such a person's intuits, that mind which has been taken over by purity is able to intuit the reality. Such a person is able to, without any effort, able to understand what is being heard or what is being read. In any situation, he is able to suss out everything. What is the main thing that is going on in a particular situation? He can solve things just like that, effortlessly. And moreover, Chinna Sanchayaha, such a person in whose mind has been taken over by purity, due to the grace of the Lord, grace of the divine, such a person has, and he has intuited the reality, such a person can have no doubts whatsoever. Same thing is being told here, that when then this the Shiva Tattva, that this I, which I call myself as I, which is not the body I, it is of the nature of completeness. It is not lacking in anything. It is of the nature of all auspiciousness. Recognize yourself to be so. The more we think about this, then there is a possibility of transcendence. Otherwise, we will, the more, no, how can I be of the nature of complete? I don't know this, I don't know that, I don't know this. Then where is your attention gone? On what you don't know. Your attention should be with conviction, with faith, that yes, at this moment I may not know, the mind may not know, but the I knows everything. But I am thinking through the mind. So how can I renounce the mind? Okay, let the mind think of the I. Why? The I is complete. So who am I? Question comes. This, who am I? I am that which is complete, which is full of auspiciousness. So how do I get there? I can't think. How can I think completeness? How can I think auspiciousness? Om Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Hare. Pray to the Lord. In that type of atmosphere must come inside of our bosom. And in this manner, the first part of this text, before he gets into the text proper, Jnaneshwar Maharaj has given us the Mangala Charan, the auspicious way to conduct ourselves so that we abide in the truth, or another way is Mangala Charan is the verses of auspiciousness which prepare our mind to delve into the study further. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.